Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Padres EVT Podcast in Focus. We're back. It's your co-host, Diego Garcia, my co-host, Willy Warren. Big week in baseball since we last spoke. Last time we spoke, we were talking about minor leaguers and the spring breakout games. Now we're talking about something on a much bigger stage. The World Baseball Classic has started since we last recorded. Right off the bat, I think we know where we want to get started.
Yeah, I think what has been on everybody's mind, everybody's feed is Team Dominican Republic, because they've been just breaking open the baseball world with how they're playing, how they're hitting, how they're celebrating, how they're having fun together. And the Padres have two of their, biggest names, biggest players in Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado, who have not been, they have not been letting down that group at all. If you want to, take on just what your take has been from watching, those two get after it in this, first three games of play.
I think it's really hard to put into words because we've seen, the Manny Machado play happen on back-to-back plays, no less, and each time makes it look as easy as ever. If you had told me this a couple of years ago, I'd turn it into a Gold Glove debate, but we don't need to go there. And and then yesterday, we were recording this on a Tuesday. Yesterday on Monday, we saw Fernando Tatis Jr. with that big grand slam against Team Israel over in Miami that brought the roof down in Marlins Park, or Lone Depot Park. I have to correct myself there. I think, quite frankly, the WBC has been everything that people have wanted out of it, and then some. Like, there's been some great stories all around, but Team DR with Manny, Fernando, and, guys like Vladimiro Jr., Juan Soto, Junior Caminero, like, that's a fun team to watch, and I think it very much is a team that could go all the way.
Yeah, the absolute hugest thing I've seen is it's really, really fun time for obviously Padres fans who are watching our the two best players on the team, go after it, have fun together, playing with some of the best. But just as a fan of the game, this has been one of the arguably the most fun week we've had as just fans of baseball in general. For I can't remember. It's been so fun waking up early for the to watch Team Japan play, at 3 in the morning, and then you got all your games going at different places around the world throughout the day. Huge stuff going on, and of course you've got Team USA doing their thing. It's just been so fun as a fan of the game, in addition to fans of the Padres.
Definitely. Team USA is in Pool B, correct? Pool B is the one that's in Houston.
Yes.
That pool, I think, because we've seen some big offensive production. We've seen some games that are 16-0 or something like that. We saw Joseph Contreras of Team Brazil, a 17-year-old pitcher who, in between starts or appearances has been talking about how he has to do his trigonometry homework or this and that. So many really great baseball stories. And I'm going to be honest, as much as the pool that's over in Miami has been, I think, at least so far for me, because by the time this comes out, pool play will probably be over. I think Pool B was kind of the pool to watch, because you have three really talented teams in Team USA, Team Mexico, and Team Italy. You've got Team Brazil, who's kind of a wild card going into it, and I know there's one team I'm missing in,
I believe it's Great Britain.
B. Oh, Team Great Britain, who their game against Brazil went pretty well as well. They were leading against Team USA at 1.2. So I think the fact that there's so many different backgrounds in this one event, if they want to grow the game globally, this is how you do it. And I know there's been takes about Olympic baseball versus this. Like, let's wait till we see what Olympic baseball looks like before we start saying what's better than the other.
Yeah,
Because we can't go for it.
Sorry, like just on the kind of theme of fans and like just how to grow the game like on the global stage is just like it's funny because you'll see that sometimes these places don't totally set like they don't have this like just packed with fans on fans, but the fans who do come, the fans who do know it's going on, and like the fans who are in the like loop of things are cheering louder than any like they're more excited. They're just and I think that's the biggest thing I've seen is like I don't know if every fan knows this is going on, but the ones who do and the ones who show up are more passionate than I've seen fans anywhere, and that's really awesome, and that's why it's really encouraging that I feel like if it does take a bigger stage like the 2028 Olympics, then that would be absolutely huge because the fans who show up, like they show up, they really are passionate, and that's what's been the coolest thing to see in terms of growing the game so far.
Most definitely. I think that even, some of the games like Team Australia has been surprisingly really good. They're tired of having to say, yeah, we play baseball in Australia. They do. Like, the only reason they're not moving on is this incredibly bizarre tiebreaker situation. Like, they were a really sneaky pick to move into the, the quarterfinals. The story with Andrei Satoria, the electrician from Czechia, who has pretty much pitched shutout baseball this entire WBC. Like, there will be a movie about that in about 20 years. Like this.
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
And I want to throw it in. He also commented on one of my posts last year.
Oh,
and now, and so if that huge thing comes out, that would be really, really cool. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry. I had to throw that out there.
I mean, this is the place for it. We not only are we talking facts, we're talking fun stories like that. Let's we like that. We like things like that. We want more of that. And then Pool B is going to have an insane finish over the next couple of days because whoever wins Team Mexico and Team Italy when they play on Thursday, which will probably have already passed by the time this gets posted, but that's going to be a huge game for for the quarterfinals and see who makes it. And yeah, there's been some pretty good performers all around with regards to the Padres. Alec Jacob and Ron Marinaccio have looked really good for Team Italy. We've seen Mason Miller be scoreless in for Team USA. Yesterday when they were playing Team Mexico, there was some questions about why is Mason Miller not in the game. But Garrett Whitlock came in and he did what he had to do. That was a really good game, Team USA, Team Mexico. And then the only other like Padre like that comes to mind off the top of my head would be prospect Josh Mallitz for Team Israel. He got out of a big jam and then threw another scoreless inning on top of that. So they've had some performers. So I think they did say that would weigh into some of the spring training considerations. So that leads us right into spring training, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been raving on about this awesome huge global stage tournament, and that it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, that probably speaks to how exciting it is that I think we went 8 minutes just talking about the teams and the stories itself before we even mentioned the Padres players playing in the tournament. But yeah, back stateside exclusively in Peoria, we had Walker Buehler making his first start of Cactus League action. He had been good to throw. He'd been throwing bullpen sessions and all that, but we finally got his data for the first time this spring. He went 3 innings, gave up 2 runs, and struck out 4. I thought he looked better than I was expecting. His stuff and like the way he was hitting his spots was, I'd say, fifth starter material right there. Is what at least that was the kind of take. If he's pitching like that, I feel good with him potentially making major league starts.
Yeah, that's a really good point about his performance because, one of the things with Buehler early on in his career is he could just blow it right past you. It didn't matter where it was. But now that he has to be a little more reliant on location, if he can consistently, locate the ball where he wants it, like he was doing, like it doesn't matter if the velo is down. He's hitting his spots. He's got the cutter to play off the four seamer, which does what it's supposed to do, even if, he can't get the same sort of spin that he would be able to in seasons past. And, I was actually thinking about this before the show because I saw this post. I'm not going to name who put it out there, but people are essentially saying like, oh yeah, don't get excited for Walker Buehler. It's over. They're saying it is over. Like it's a fact. He's still got his right arm attached. One. So it can't be over if he's still got his arm. And also like, we've only seen him one exhibition outing with data. He threw against, a Korean team on the backfield. Also went 3 innings, 2 earned runs. Like, even though the results haven't been the prettiest, like, we're not talking about a guy who's competing to be your number 1. We're talking about a guy who's competing to be your number 5 for like a month or 2. Like, we're not talking Game 7 of the World Series. You're going to throw current day Walker Buehler out there. We're talking about, a depth guys. So I think it's ridiculous to see people who are just saying, oh, it's over because it's not the same as before. Guys have found ways to reinvent their careers and have been successful at doing so. And the Padres have shown that they can do that. They can help players rebuild their careers. Like when they got Martin Perez a couple years ago, we're thinking, okay, so what? Like it was just a move. It was kind of just whelming. But then he goes on this little insanity run to end the season. And it's like, okay, did not expect that, but I'll take it. If the Padres can get even say 4 ERA, 4.3 FIP with like a 20% K rate out of Walker Buehler for 2 months on league minimum salary, I mean, you take that every day of the week. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds bad kind of to say that you're only hoping to get him to give you like a month or 2 of like decent pitching. Like it does sound kind of bad to say that like you're only hoping, but I mean you are hoping he can hold up for a portion of the season. You're not you're not really seeing him as someone on a minor league deal who's gonna this is our 5th starter option locked in. He's gonna pitch the whole season. He's gonna make our game 2 of the NLDS start. Like that's not what you're viewing him as. And so if he does do this, and this is kind of it's this stuff we got on him after we saw him pitch the other day, was that we think like he could give the Padres a good first 2 months of the season and maybe more. But for now, that like if he continues to pitch like that, my stuff plus model had him at an exactly 100. So he's average in stuff, and his command was good. I'd say was above average without any model, just based off the eye test. But
yeah,
that will play. That will absolutely play. And so my take from his start was that like I like that. That is something I would be okay with watching on that fifth day start, where you just need someone to hopefully cover 5 innings while the offense hopefully has a good day at the plate.
Definitely. And I think this rotation race really just continues to get interesting as we are starting to wind down the days into camp, because now Joe Musgrove is in danger of not making the opening day roster. They might slow play him. And then Nick Pivetta dealing with some general arm fatigue as well. So, just what do you think the Padres are well equipped to navigate that situation as of now?
They are. I would say they're about as well equipped as you could be for this type of scenario. Like, I mean, how often? I mean, I don't know how many staffs out there have injury concerns going on with their top three arms. That's not a spot that I think any team can really be built to survive in. But I do
Unless you're
think
the
that
Dodgers.
unless you're the Dodgers, thank you. But yeah, it's not very common that a team can handle that smoothly. And I do think that the Padres are doing a good job of getting a bulk of guys, a bulk of arms that can pitch, because at the end of the day, you like there will be days where you just need the next guy up to go out there and throw, and like however it goes is however it goes. We saw that with Sean Reynolds last season in Atlanta. I think he made up King's start there when that was the first game he missed. And there will be days like that where you just need someone to go out there and throw. And I think the Padres have put themselves in a good spot where they can trust that at least they have starting options, not just, we're going to stretch this guy, hopefully get 3 innings out of him. Like, they have starting options that you can at least feel good about their ability to go deep into the game, relatively deep for a fit, like kind of like a fifth starter makeup sort of guy. So I do think that they're about as well equipped as they can be for something like this. But then again, it's not something that is a positive. Any team would have to deal with that.
Yeah, it's not really something you ever really want to deal with, especially right now. We are 16-ish days away from opening day, which is wild to think of as we're recording. So I asked you, who do you think, if Musgrove or Pivetta is not ready, do you think Michael King is the opening day starter?
I think he is, only because he started last year's and he's done it. And while it didn't go super well, he did it. He went out against a good Braves lineup and, did get, I think he had a better second start and third start and so on. And he had a solid first few starts before he ran into some issues. But yeah, I do think King is the guy you have to go to if he's feeling up to it, because I mean, we haven't heard anything injury related to him, and we think that he's feeling healthy, but he's also looking up at a 8.9 something ERA for the spring. So far, and I mean, we know it is spring. It is a small sample size. It's not something that you really buy into too deeply, but it's not also what you want to roll out in a guy who didn't pitch a lot for you last season and it's going to go out there on the first day for you the next season. So I think it's a little, I guess the word I use on here was a little fishy, kind of weird spot. But yeah, I think it would have to be King just because of the history behind him.
It could be, or you go to the mystery box and you start Randy Vasquez on opening day. Because, and hear me out.
I'm hearing you out. I'm hearing you out.
Like, he's been their best pitcher this spring, not named Logan Gillaspie. Like, Randy Vasquez, he found something at the end of the year. It's clearly carried over now because he is back to prospect Randy Vasquez, who's pumping 96 with insane tail. He allowed, I believe, 2 runs against the Rangers yesterday. He's been stretched out to 4 innings plus. So he's got the stamina for it. He's almost ready. I think, what we've seen out of him, the stuff results have been great. He pitched really well against Team Great Britain last week. 4 innings of scoreless baseball. Like, yesterday was the first time he'd been scored on all of spring training. And the walks are down too. Like, correct me if I'm mistaken, but the whip is under 1 last time I checked.
I believe so.
So, like, and think about it. You have Tarek Skubal, who is definitely going to be the Tigers' opening day starter, and you have him going against Randy Vasquez. That is absolute cinema. That is much watched TV, friends.
Yeah, it would be a shock, and I don't think anybody would really see it coming, not named Diego Garcia, but yeah, I mean, but it does bring up a really interesting point, is that momentum. Do you go with a guy who made the start for you last year? You gave him the money in the offseason. The feel is that he's the better, he's the better pitcher out there. He's the best pitch. Like that's the feel with Michael King. Or do you go with the guy who has all of the, like, who he is, everybody who's really been following his spring, his spring starts, and like, do you roll with that hype? Do you roll with the guy who just added 2-3 miles an hour to his stuff? Do you roll with that and just say, I mean, like, it would be an absolute shock to the world, but there is momentum behind it, and there is a rationale behind saying, you know what, you had an awesome spring, you worked out, you worked a ton over the off season, you inherently got better, and we're going to give you this chance. Like, it's possible, and I think it's more likely than fans probably want to accept at this point. But like you said, it would be absolute cinema. It would be sick to go watch him face Tariq Skubal, them being in the pens together, forming up side by side. It would be hilarious.
Definitely. And this could all be for naught. Like, Nick Pivetta could be fine and he's the opening day starter, but it's definitely a situation to monitor, especially with all the injuries that have. It's weird because usually with spring training, there's like, you come in and there's like, oh, there's like 8 guys who are injured, and it's like, okay, how are we going to navigate this? But right now, the biggest injury outside of the pitching staff has kind of been Seung-Min Song, who hit an absolute nuke over the weekend, I believe. Like, that was destroyed. And then he felt some discomfort in his oblique, probably from hitting that ball that far. But with him at risk of missing opening day, does that mean that Ty France makes the roster?
I do think that, I mean, I think he has this. I think he does have the track record to do it, and I think I feel like he's definitely the guy like they would give that shot to, and so I would say yes. It's obviously super unfortunate what we're seeing with Seung-Min Song, because I mean, he was having an awesome day, making his first start at shortstop, made a great play, hit a 430-foot bomb with the help of a little bit of wind. There's a little bit of casual 28-mile-an-hour gusts going out towards right field. But I do think that France would get that. I guess my follow-up question would be, how much better is Seung-Min Song than in the analytical terms, like how much better than the replacement would he be, do you think?
That's a good question, because obviously with him coming over from the KBO, one does have to account for the change in offensive environment. But the one thing with the KBO that I think is really interesting is that recently, like, velo has been trending up, as it has been kind of in any baseball league. We saw guys like Drew Anderson and Cody Ponce come back, and they're consistently hitting 95, 96. So it's not as much of a foreign concept as it would have been when someone like Ha-Sung Kim made the jump over to MLB. But I think with Song, I think his defense is most definitely above replacement. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's a reason he was so praised when he was coming over, and that's why it was kind of a shock when he got the deal that he did. And so I think he'd definitely be above replacement level based on his defense alone. the bat does not look like there's going to be a huge learning curve compared to Ha-Sung Kim and guys who've seen come over from the KBO before. If he can stay healthy, he could definitely be like a 1 to 2 WAR player depending on playing time. I know that B WAR, F WAR, that's a whole other debate for another time. I'm more of an F WAR guy myself, but to each their own. If our viewers want to comment, which war are you a fan of and why, you can have that always civil discussion in the comments below. But with regards to Sungmun Song, like he could definitely be an above average player. Just if he can be healthy and if the bat can kind of translate, because I know it's hard to hit over 300 coming over from one league to another, unless your name's Ichiro Suzuki or Hideki Matsui. But if Song can hit like 250 with a 340 on base and occasional power, like when we need it, like I'll take that.
Yeah, it's really all about health when you're getting guys, making that transition. I mean, it's an adjustment. It is huge. It's very different environment, very different. Pitch. The pitches you'll see are obviously different, and not just shape or velocity, but also you'll see more like different pitches more often, and you'll see different stuff, and hitters might hit the ball harder on the other side of things, and it's just something that takes time, and it takes health, and it takes staying on the field. And so that was what I would absolutely preach. He needs to get right, and whenever that is, like, he has to be right before he gets out there, because I think if he starts to split time, jump around from place to place on the defensive side of things, and then he's jumping around on the lineup, then that's tough. And I don't think that's necessarily the way you would want to go about getting him adapted to the new conditions. So I do think France, if he has to, would be. I feel good about that being the R in the WAR stat. So, but definitely he's got to be healthy. He's got to be 100% before he goes out there, because being on and off the field, I mean, we've seen it with stars before, like Jackson Merrill last season. Like he was, he had a huge first season. Like he made an amazing adjustment from AA to the MLB, and then went through missed time here and there, and we saw his production just drop off a cliff at times. And so even with like really established players like that can hurt you. And so I do think like staying on the field for large period, like hope, the hope is that that's a full year. But yeah, just like making sure he is 100% before he gets out there definitely is the hugest thing I would advise to that situation there.
No, certainly they don't want to rush him, definitely, because you want him to, especially like it's a new country, it's a new environment, it's a new schedule, because the KBO season is 144 games, so it's not that huge an adjustment, but it's still an adjustment that guys have to make. And so for Song, you definitely want him to be all right physically and mentally before even getting him on the field. So I think that's definitely something to consider. I wanted to ask your thoughts on Logan Gillaspie. I don't know if you have his stuff there with you, but he has been one of the most under the radar performers in this entire spring training for the Padres. He is not allowed to run, and I believe 7 to 8 innings worth of work. He has a whip of .65. And there was one outing where he threw 3 innings on, I believe, 23 pitches, 21 strikes. Something insane like that. So, as our resident stuff expert, what can you tell us about Logan Gillaspie and his performance?
I'm going to get his stuff pulled up, loaded into the model. But I mean, just results wise, we he hasn't spent much time at the big league level. Like, he's made starts here and there. I think he made one in Chicago last year was the only one I can remember him. But I mean, he's someone who's not necessarily a big riser that you think of, or like he has a real like timetable. Like, no, he's someone who's viewed as like a very deep depth piece, and to see him come out and put up the best stats out of everybody, including including the incredible Randy Vasquez, is a little bit of a head turner. That's not exactly who you expect there. My model's not modeling, but
that's all right.
But yeah, I can definitely get back to you later with his stuff. Hopefully later on in the show I can get some reads on Logan Gillaspie. But definitely a name to watch as the spring comes to a close, as they start to send players back to minor league camp. And definitely, I mean, he's someone who could also make a couple, like he could pitch a month at the big league level, and he could find himself in a role that we didn't really see for him at the beginning of these spring. But with you just can't deny really good results there are just times when, if a dude's rolling, you gotta let him, you just got to give him a shot. And so maybe we'll see that might probably come deeper into the summer. But as for now, that's definitely a shock to see him doing as well as he has been in spring so far.
Yeah. In the meantime, while you were giving us the rundown, I found that game where he his longest outing last year. He came in. It wasn't Chicago. There was cold wind, and he came on the first inning with the bases loaded to take over for Kyle Hart, who threw 39 pitches in the first inning and could not get out of the frame. Gillaspie comes in and he throws 4 1/3, only allowing 1 run. So I think, he's clearly a guy that the Padres have liked the results from, because they keep bringing him back. They had him in 2024 for a bit. He came back last year for a bit, strained his oblique. I think he was well on the way to being that, like the spiritual successor to Nick Martinez and Nabil Crismat, in terms of like the folk hero, long reliever / spot starter kind of guy. And, I think, quite frankly, this is the year where it does happen for him. He's always been a guy who it's like, oh, look at the stuff, because the stuff in the past really graded out quite highly, if I recall, when he was with the Orioles, and then he got DFA'd. And there was a guy like, oh, teams should be all over this guy. And fortunately for us, he's on the Padres, and now in a great position to really make a name for himself at the big league level. That's one of the biggest names that stuck out to me with spring training has been Logan Gillaspie. And I know that there's a lot of other guys who are making their cases, like Bradley Rodriguez has pitched really well this spring. What can you
yes,
tell
absolutely.
us about Bradley?
Oh yeah, he's, I mean, definitely the stuffed demon of the pen. I know he ranked really high in your EVT top 32 prospects article that you wrote a couple weeks back. I mean,
I believe he was at number 8. I'm double checking right now.
If you still have not read that, it is incredible, and there's tons of great stuff that you should read up on the top guys in the org. But yeah, definitely probably the most fun one outside of maybe Garrett Hawkins, who is fun but doesn't touch triple digits like Brad Glay does. And so, I mean, I think he might get a bigger role than it seems, because the feel is that, oh, like the Padres have the quote unquote super bullpen. And, like anybody coming in new is not going to get much of a role because there's already guys there. But I mean, he pitched really, really well when he was up with the big league team. And I don't see a reason. I think he can carry some of that, juice we saw, and he can get it, carve out a bigger role than I think people really think, on my 18-man on like fantasy team, he's my closer because and it's not the typical closer like, Suarez, Munoz, Miller. Like, I do think he could carve out a bigger role than like people think, and he could get 7th, 8th inning. I mean, with we have seen, although he's been exceptional for the most part, we've seen Jeremiah Estrada like kind of slip up at times a little bit, struggle with certain, when he faces a left-hander, right hand, like there's times when we've seen that the matchups he faces for him sometimes aren't super in his favor, I guess. And so I do think that's where we could maybe see a little bit of a shock of an eighth inning outing from Bradgley. So I think that would be, I think that's definitely in play, and I do think that's something I expect to see pretty early on because he has been having an excellent spring. The stuff is gross, and I think he kind of feels like a high leverage guy. I mean, it would feel weird for him to, pitch in like a 6th inning. It just doesn't feel right with just the kind of caliber of stuff that he throws there.
Exactly. He's been doing it the entire time he's been stateside of the minor leagues. He's been a 7th, 8th, 9th inning guy. He's picked up saves at different professional levels. And, one of the things that I think helps Bradgley's case is we don't know if Jason Adams is going to be on the opening day roster. He had that patella injury. They've kind of been working him back slowly, and we're not quite sure if he's going to be on the roster. By the time you're listening to this, he is going to be making his debut over the weekend. He's done some sim game stuff, but I think with Jason Adams, he's a year away from free agency. And I think if the Padres really want to have him for the stretch run, like, take your time with him, because you've got a guy who's just as good in Bradgley and who's a lot younger, throws harder. The changeup, I think those two guys have some of the best changeups in a major league bullpen. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but just seeing with how they pair off the fastball from the way that they throw it is definitely it's definitely up there in terms of around the league. And Bradgley could be the guy who could down the line be your 8th inning guy, because Estrada, I feel like with Jeremiah Estrada, like, he works best when he's getting out of a sticky wicket, when he is that sort of fireman. You bring him on in the 6th inning, you got 2 runners on, and he'll strike out Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, and Giancarlo Stanton to get out of it.
Oh yeah.
He's that guy, and that's how he approaches it. There's been times where he will throw 3 days in a row because you've got no one left to close out the game, notably against Philadelphia. I think he had 1 or 2 saves last year. One came against the Phillies, and that was his 3rd day in a row getting on the mound. And, he said it in 2024, like, he will die on that hill for his teammates. And that was when he was recovering from whatever, I think it was like a viral thing, whatever it was.
Virus. It was something crazy.
Yeah. And for him to come out and say that was even crazier, but he goes out there and he proves it. He cares about the team, cares about the city, wants to win. And I think you feed off of that when you have that guy coming in after your starter to get out of a jam. Like, that's the energy you want to build that momentum going into the game later.
Yeah, just being able to use him in just spots where you're just kind of in a panic of like, oh, do we have a ready for this? Do we have left for this? Like, do we want to save him? Like, he's the guy who kind of quiets all of that, all of that down. And especially as one of the many right-handers in that, group, I think it's absolutely huge that they can that he's able to be used whenever they really need him to be, rather than, oh no, like we got to save him for the 7th inning because we have to set up our, perfect line. I think we also saw them use Adrian Morejon also in like a similar way at times, where he would come in like the 6th, even 5th inning at times when they really needed him to get 3 big outs in games where you don't really feel like it's on script. And having a guy like, Brad Glay, Rodriguez at the back of that, pen really helps to say, okay, like we can use him here. We can use Estrada in the 6th inning. Like, it gives you that extra layer of, flexibility. And maybe in, years coming, like maybe that, like we'll see guys like Rodriguez is like shape into the fireman role as you called it. Like, I mean, we could see that, eventually, but for now, it just adds another high leverage, high firepower guy to the back end, and it also kind of frees up those other guys to, make those random appearances when they, are needed. So
yeah, like Jeremiah Estrada came in the 2nd inning of a playoff game. So that's the amount of that's the kind of role you want him, and you want him to be ready whenever, for whatever moment. And I think that's a great role for him, which then allows Brad Glay to be in that late inning mix. Now, I'm going to say something that might not age well, but I'm going to say it now. I think Brad Glay Rodriguez has a better 2026 season than Robert Suarez.
I'm not moving because I trust it.
I think if Brad Glay Rodriguez makes the major league roster, even by midseason, I think percentile wise, I think stuff wise, results wise, I think he's going to have a better season than Robert Suarez. And this is no hate on Suarez whatsoever, but when you watch Robert Suarez pitch, you stop and you think to yourself, it's all fastballs, and then there's one changeup out of like every 10. Whereas when you watch Rodriguez, like, he knows how his stuff will play off of itself. He uses the changeup really well. He'll use it early in counts to set up the fastball. And Rodriguez has a cutter that he's added in, over the last year plus. So he has something to go against righties, something to go against lefties. And, it's all arm all the time coming right at you. It looks like it's going to like hit the batter, but then it ends up like dotting upper corner, up and in against a righty, up and away against the lefty. I know that he hasn't seen a ton of time in the major leagues. I really hope he doesn't get traded, but I think if Brad Glay makes the big league roster and he stays on it for an extended period of time, I think he's going to have a better season than Suarez.
Yeah, I mean, in a very, basic way of, seeing both of those, those two guys there is, one of them throws hard, like a hard 4-seamer, a hard 2-seamer, and a hard changeup. The other one, which is Brad Glay Rodriguez, he throws mostly 2-seamer, and then he'll mix in that changeup very, very often, which is huge. And then he's adding that cut fastball as well, which is also huge. And it just kind of plays better in the modern game because the ball is going to be out of the air way less. Like, there's going to be way more ground balls because both of them will probably give up some hard contact. Like that's just what hard throwing guys who don't have, 4 or 5 pitches, like that's just what will happen. But Brad Galley is going to get them on the ground. And that's the difference is when it is hit hard, when they do make that contact, it's not going to be those like blown save home runs or like laced doubles like smoked into the gap. Like, no, it'll probably be a scorcher to Manny or to Xander Bogaerts, and it will be an out or at least a single. And that I think is the biggest like technical gap between them. And that's why I don't flinch at the, the fact that like he could have a better season than him, because he's built to have better base stats. I mean, he might not have the raw like 102, like he might not throw exactly as hard. He might not, have the same extension, although it is a lot of limbs flying at you. I do think that he's built for better results, and I do think that we'll see that this season. And as you also said, I mean, he's way younger. He's just coming up. I can't imagine Robert Suarez is going to add much velocity this year, if not lose it. So yeah, that's a 100%, I feel like a safer take than most would think it is, just because of what we've seen out of him so far in spring, the type of guy he is, with that two-seam fastball. And yeah, I mean, he's only like 23, 24. I mean, I think he came up at like, I forget, but it is very low 20s, maybe 22.
He's 21.
21. Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it sounded crazy, but I thought I remembered him coming up at 20, and then I think he turned 21 this offseason. Maybe he also came up. He
just turned 21 when he came up. Like he turned 21.
Yeah,
like a week before coming up. So it was really crazy. I do have one more arm I want to talk to you about before we wrap things up. And that is DJ Jackson Wolf, because I don't know if you got to hear the broadcast or if you saw on Jackson Merrill's Instagram, where Jackson Wolf has a full-blown like DJ setup, and he knows how to use it. Like he knows how to mix tracks together and everything like that. He's kind of been the clubhouse DJ while the guys are at the WBC. That's a fun story to hear from Jesse and Tony on the radio. But what can you tell me about how he's looked in spring training? Because I know he's a guy that we talked about earlier episodes of the show.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first I am hearing that he is also like he's also mixing up beats as well. I had not heard that at all. But he also is mixing pitches very, very well over here in spring. He's pitched seven frames. 7 frames and 2.57 ERA, but an 0.86 WHIP and just a 130 batting average against him, which that's really, really, really good. And especially for a guy who doesn't throw hard, he sits maybe 90, and to have like that type of that type of line there is really, really, really impressive. Like, he hasn't been striking out a ton. That's not really his jam there. That was not intended by the way. That just came out. But he is getting hitters just to hit it soft and hit it in the wrong spot, hit it the wrong way. He's only a 1.58 batting average on balls in play, which is absurd as well. That's usually like a sign that hitters are getting unlucky against him. But I also view it as a sign that he's getting a lot of soft contact. And this is the kind of comp I saw for him, is that because, I mean, he throws a lot of things. It's not very hard, but it's from a funky angle. I think he could be for whether this is like this season or, next, he could be like the 2023 Ryan Yarbrough for the Dodgers. You see
Yes.
it a little bit?
I do see it with the angle and just the pitch mix. I keep forgetting about Ryan Yarbrough whenever I'm talking about Jackson Wolf, because I'm like, oh, where's a lefty with a funky arm slot that doesn't throw hard but gets a lot of soft contact? And I never remember Ryan Yarbrough. And I read an article about Ryan Yarbrough about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no. I was gonna go on. He is I think his changeup is definitely a lot better than the Ryan Yarbrough changeup, and vice versa for the big sweeping slider that I think Yarbrough throws. But yeah, I thought like, hey, that could totally be like that. That feels like that's the type of guy he's going to be, because I don't know if that type of arm slot and will play as a starter, but then again, it's not as hard as you want to throw for like a 1 inning guy. And so I feel like that's the perfect role for him, is to kind of get those 2 to 3 innings early in games, kind of cleaning up things when the starter isn't on schedule. And for those of you who don't know who Ryan Yarbrough is / was, he kind of does like early inning, long pitching, long relief pitching, where like he'll cover innings where you just kind of, you see like it kind of jumps from like the second inning to the 5th inning, and you're like, wait, what happened? And it's just because like they're quietly getting weak ground balls and little pop-ups, and it doesn't feel like they're overwhelming at all. But I feel like that's the type of guy I envision him being with the Padres, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, I think, even as soon as this season, like, he's a little blocked by, a guy like Kyle Hart, but Jackson Wolf does have an option remaining, even though he's been DFA'd like twice. So I think he could definitely be, a guy who you turn to during the dog days of summer. I mean, after all, that's why he made his big league debut. They turned to him when Michael Wacha had some shoulder soreness, so they have him come up, make the 1 start. And since then, that's his only big league appearance. It's been 2.5 years since his major league debut. So for those of you who are watching, here's your trivia question of the week. I don't know if this will be a weekly thing, but here we go. What is the biggest gap in between appearances as a Padre for a player? I don't have the answer in front of me. That's why I'm putting it out there for our viewers, our listeners to figure out. And if you can figure out what it is, go ahead and leave it down below. I think we are gonna wrap things up here. I know next week, either next week or the week after, we'll post about this, but we're aiming to have a mailbag episode where you can send your questions in and we will answer them regarding the Padres, the 2026 season, any Padres minor league stuff, or just baseball altogether. So we will, we'll figure that out and you will know when that is. But once again, thank you all so very much for tuning in. And go ahead.
Got one more just before we get out of here. This is what Logan Gillaspie's stuff looks like. I finally got it to work. We got 107 on the changeup. I think 101, 102, 103 on the 4-seamer, and he grades out at a 102 overall. So I finally got that to work. Just need to make sure everybody knows what Logan Gillaspie's stuff looks like before we get out of here. Yeah. But yes, continue.
So thank you all once again for tuning in to another episode of the Padres EVT Podcast in Focus. For my co-host, Willy Warren, this is your co-host, Garcia, signing off.